Hey everyone, I know the title is crazy. I am clickbaiting you, my bad. Well, no, just a little bit. I am going to talk about it, of course, but in no way am I proposing that this isn't something you should engage in. I'm not saying it's at all a good idea. I think that it's morally reprehensible. If you do it, you should be crucified upside down forever, for eternity. But I do think it's happening, and I do think that it has physical benefits that incentivize people to do it. And some of you may know if you've seen any of my other videos where I reference this quite a lot because I think it's an extremely big deal. I am a big carnivore fan. I'm a big carnivore believer. I think that raw meat is the most nutritious thing on the planet for humans to eat and that we are biologically evolved to eat it. But a principle you see within the carnivore diet is that the closer a meat's constitution is to the constitution of the human body, with its proteins, with its salt structures, everything, the easier it is for the human body to digest it, and the more bioavailable the nutrients are. And like, just for an example, that's why pork, quite famously, is the closest to human meat and is also one of the easiest meats for us to digest. And I also think that's why it gets demonized in terms of being so dangerous and so unhealthy, like by the experts, I suppose. But that's a topic for a different video. But you understand the principle. To which I go, then, following that logic, what would the most nutritious possible food be to humans? Yeah, humans. And here's another principle with carnivore diet. The longer an organism has been alive, the more toxins it's been able to accumulate in its lifetime. That's why people eat veal on the carnivore diet. Like informed people that eat veal, that is, they go for veal over the adult counterpart because there are literally just less toxins in the meat. And that explains some conspiracies that you hear all the time about, like, they eat babies, because they likely do. I don't think it's a practice that ever stopped, since even like back in the Aztec times. And doesn't it make total sense that these people who are so willing to kill millions, who are willing to degrade people epigenetically into oblivion, into infertility, cause mass suffering to benefit a very small number of people? Do you really think they'd have the moral character not to do this if they saw it as beneficial? And not just that, but do you think they'd ever be able to be held accountable in the way the world currently works? Hell no. Of course not. They're above the law in every other way. They get away with certain things, again, I can't really mention on YouTube, or at least I don't think I can. But Little St. James activities, if you will. I'll put a picture of who I'm referencing here up on the screen. But we all know that they get away with that. That's public knowledge now. So what's this in comparison? It's just one step up. It's not far off at all. So it happens. But the only reason why most people would, by gut instinct upon hearing this, assume that it's a conspiracy, dismiss it, and kind of socially shame the person bringing it up, is because it's a terrifying topic, and your fear of the topic is weaponized against you. And I just want you to really think about where that instinct comes from. If hearing my voice right now, I'm sure that many of you listening, the kind of people attracted to these kind of videos, probably won't be as emotionally shocked by the words that I'm saying, because you'll probably be used to that. I'm one of you, I get it, right? You do that to yourself all the time anyway, so what? You know what I mean? But to any well-adjusted, normal people amongst you, and it'll come across as shocking. But I want you to really think about where that instinct comes from, because that's what I had to do. I had to do kind of peeling back the layers, strip mining, if you will, my own psyche when it came to this topic, where I was like, why do I not want to think about it? Well, of course, you've got the step one. It's horrifying, it's terrifying, it's disgusting, it's morally reprehensible, it's vomit-inducing. Of course, it's just a negative thing to think about. You don't want to think about it. And once you can overcome that, which every human can, you know what I mean? What else? Social shaming. You get told from a young age by the figures of authority that it's not only is it dangerous, which again I think is a lie, but it's not happening. That stopped centuries ago. It's an old world, evil, you know what I mean? To which I'm like, well, the evil part's right, but I don't think it stopped. And the idea that then the experts, if you will, are telling you this authoritatively means that it sets that precedent that if you are to bring that up, you will get social fallout that is undesirable. And that, in most people, is enough to stop them from ever bringing it up. Like, imagine if you try and sit down at the dinner table, and even with people you really trust and people you know are intelligent and wise, you try and go, I want to talk about cannibalism. What do you think their reaction's going to be? You can predict it. Some of you whack jobs amongst amongst the viewers might have done it themselves, might have the real world evidence of what happens. But it's not good. No human brain wants to be ostracized or isolated, and that will be the result of that. But this video wasn't really about me discussing this specific topic. It's more about the principle behind the aversion to this topic. Because once you can begin to spot that instinct in yourself, like this is a good example because everyone will have a shared instinct of revulsion on this topic and a shared avoidance. But once you can learn to start recognizing that emotion of avoidance, you can start to realize exactly how many things are weaponized against you. And I'm not making any kind of statement with this next thing I'm going to say. No opinionated statement whatsoever. I'm just referencing it, okay, YouTube? But anti-Semitism, for instance. Why do so many people have extreme reactions in either direction? It's because it's an extremely emotional topic. It's extremely integrated into the subconscious emotion part of your brain as being something that's totally untouchable and only evil demons would ever question. You know what I mean? And then, of course, you have the big backlash that inevitably comes from anything that's restricted, you know what I mean? Which is rebellious-brained people who are more inclined to be confrontational, to disagreeable, that's the word I'm looking for, who will then just not really think about it and just have the inverse reaction as their first instinct, to just go, well, whatever's not socially acceptable is what I'm going to do. That's not a good thing. That's not a good instinct to have. It's better, I suppose, than just listening to everything that you're told, but not by much. You need to understand things. You need to be wise about it. But the reason people can have that reaction at all is because it's not something that's intrinsically morally reprehensible like cannibalism. Cannibalism is just an extreme example that I'm bringing up to highlight the idea, right? And like I was saying, once you can recognize this instinct, you'll start to be able to spot it in a ton of areas in your life. And you can attribute it to the diet stuff, but that's for another video. You can attribute it to the anti-Semitism stuff. And again, that's probably for another video. I'll see how these do. And I can't think of any other examples off the top of my head, but trust me, there are tons of them because I realized a while ago exactly how often I'm having this emotion. But yeah, I just want you to come away from this video and just think about that to yourself and just keep a part of your brain always designated to trying to recognize this emotion whenever you can throughout day-to-day life, in conversations with co-workers, with family members, when you're listening to the news or regular YouTube media, you know what I mean? Just start keeping an eye out for that stuff, and I think you'll see some benefit.